Grand Rising, everybody. Welcome to Rise Up Breathwork with Matt Thomson and me, Sandy. Special edition. We are live from Camp CBGB, otherwise known as the First Church of the People's Congregation of Shakers and Movers. We are at our undisclosed location in the Waterboro Barrens, and we hope to invite more people up and have more ceremonies up here as we are so appreciative of your support. Your support helps us create this programming. For those who cannot join us, we are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. Yeah, exactly. So, Matt, you have all your bowls set up. You know, maybe I'll just do a little
I didn't bring all my bowls, but yeah, I got a good number of them.
Show people what we have going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what's the plan for today, Matt? How are you feeling?
I am feeling really good. Just had a really lazy, relaxing day yesterday and a relaxing morning. Did a little kayak ride this morning.
Nice.
And just enjoying the fresh air of Maine, right?
Yeah, look at that setup. So just like how far we've come in a year, Matt.
Yeah.
You have quite the collection going on.
Well, plus in my office, there's still a lot more instruments that I did not bring up.
Oh yeah, so tell people a little bit more about your office, Matt. And what you have going on.
So what I've opened up, like, it's a 2-room office that I use with clients. So I'm working. I have some people coming in one-on-one. I have some adults. I have some adults that come in as couples. I have one couple that comes in, and then I also have one individual who's bringing their infant in for sound healing, and then I also set up instruments for him to play with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I am starting to work with kids a little bit again from the church. A couple kids coming in.
Yeah. So what types of conditions are the kids experiencing that you're finding that the sound healing's helping with?
So it's a mix of things. So I have one room that's like a sound healing room, right? And then the other room's more like a sit-down room or like it with a couch and stuff. And if someone wanted a full-blown breathwork piece, they can experience that as well. Because I'm combining the somatic coaching with breathwork and the sound healing.
So what is somatic coaching?
So somatic coaching is learning the energies of our body and how the energies are related with different moments as they arise, or different stresses or different triggers that may bring about anger or frustration or happiness or joy, and learning to regulate those energies, or in any energies that don't serve us anymore, that might be related to suffering or other stuff, dramas, to transform that energy into something that's going to serve us in a beautiful way.
I love that. So a way to handle trauma, PTSD, stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's learning, because like now, so for me, I used to be super reactive, and I had like intense anger and rage, and like how I was with words with people was horrifying. And so, like, even at one point, I felt like going back to every ex-girlfriend and just being like, I'm so sorry. Like, how did you stay with me for so long? But I never felt anything.
But a lot of that was from the inner child work that you did, right? And like a lot of stuff you realized you were carrying from even the womb.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, some of it's really, it's all related to inner child work, right? So, but when we think of inner child work too, like a lot of times people think like, oh, I need to go into my childhood and look at like these traumas and stuff like that, and that's not really the case. Like, we can, because some people aren't ready for that, and some people don't remember some of their traumas because it was so severe that their memory, they actually block it out completely and don't remember it.
But it gets stored in our cells.
It gets stored in the body. It gets stored in the body, and that's the energies that I'm talking about. Yep, exactly. And so we can also explore what's going on in the present day. So whatever is rising up for you presently now, that maybe is like frustrating for you, an uncomfortable energy, something that you just want to move past. It could be anything, right? There's so many things that.
That's why I like the sound healing versus like talk therapy.
Right. Well, so for me, anything that's going on now is linked to that inner child. So in time, we discover like which child is which part of you that you're trying to heal or transform the energy. And then, what did you just say? What was the other part? The sound healing.
Yeah.
The sound so I do feel like when some people come in, like the first month is actually talk therapy, because they have to get it all out. And so it's important for me to allow for
so
that.
Do you
too.
think that the bowls help people get it out? Like they talk after, or you kind of combine it?
I think the bowls help. I think the bowls and sound healing, the frequency helps people learn how to quiet their mind, because if we can allow or learn to become like a observer of our thoughts and kind of let stuff go a little bit, I think this helps that process speed up a little bit, because people just drop in and they just all of a sudden aren't thinking anymore.
Right, like people who can't meditate. Like
Right.
I always thought for 40 years, I can't meditate,
Yeah.
I can't sit still, I'm a hummingbird. But then you taught me about breathing, and like when you do
Right.
breath work, it's kind of like this like stealth way to get people to naturally meditate without like putting that pressure of like, oh, am I doing it right? Like,
Right.
am I meditating right?
So I had like a first time client right before I came up here, but I've known him for a while. You know him actually too, and so we've been debating and being philosophical for actually like for 5 or 6 years now, and so it was interesting to work with him, because like he, even after all the discussions that we've had, he has no idea how to breathe or anything. And so I think a lot of times, like when we think of meditation, like people are just like, I just don't have time for that. I don't. It's just too much. And yes, this can help with that process. But I think a lot of what I talk about that you're familiar with is like, well, how do we integrate? And the integration, I think, can come first before meditation becomes really positive for someone. And so what I mean by integration is like integrating the breath, like for just 10 to 30 seconds during different times of the day to help regulate the system. And so for a lot of times in the beginning, I have people set like a timer that goes off on their phone every 60 to 90 minutes. And when that timer goes off, they take a breathing break. And so if we can learn how to just become more consciously aware of our breath and how we're actually breathing, then we can use it in smaller doses to help. And then we begin, because like what I was saying before, like I was reactive. So something happened and I reacted. And my reaction went from like me sitting here like this to like 20 volcanoes erupting at the same time. And it was like that, like it was so quick. But now I can really feel like the energy growing at a very small level. So I have that awareness today, which I'm thankful for. And then I can regulate that energy and kind of transform it now for myself, so that I'm not like...
So just like anything, like titrate up slowly.
Yeah, exactly.
Small doses, work your way up. You're not going to necessarily go to a 90-minute class and be comfortable.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
so... All right,
Yeah.
So Matt, thank you again for this offering.
Yep.
I think I'm going to get comfortable,
Okay.
and we will let
So we're starting off with some basics again today.
Okay.
So we do have some people here. Have you guys ever
Yeah,
breathed
thank you everybody
before?
for coming.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Have you guys?
Not to mention that
Okay.
you got guests in the
Have
house.
you ever breathed before? Or been aware of like how you actually breathe?
No.
Okay. So yeah, so I hope everyone's having a beautiful summer. So I'm just gonna invite you just to like situate yourself, and also like another thing too, I think that's really interesting, like with meditation and doing this type of work, is like a lot of times I think people have that sensation of like, oh, I'm not supposed to move, I'm supposed to be like this. And so movement is actually also really essential in listening to what our body needs. So like whenever you're doing stuff like this, if you feel like you need to have movement, then invite that in and allow for the movement, even if it's standing up. Like I had one client who literally stood up one day and just started screaming at the top of his lungs and yelling, but that's what he needed in that moment. And so, but movement is a way to help release energy as well as the breath. So don't try to hold back movement. Just invite in what the body's asking for. And so what is correct breathing? So I'm just going to invite everyone to settle into your space. Just become comfortable for a moment. Maybe eyes open, eyes closed, whatever feels correct for you. You can meditate with the eyes open and just look at like scenery. You can look at like a nice plant in the house. It doesn't really matter. And just also inviting in like everything that you hear, because what we hear is also meditative. It doesn't, just like our New York City podcast, like it doesn't matter what you're hearing. Like it's just all vibration, it's just all frequency. So if it's cement trucks or a building or kids yelling in the background water, airplanes, like it can all just be a beautiful sound. We don't have to identify with words, but we can just take the sound in and breathe it in. And so as you're settling into your space, maybe just taking notice of like, how are you actually breathing? How is your breath right now? And just let the body breathe you for a moment. And just take notice of how you're actually breathing for yourself right now. And then an invitation to place your hands on your stomach. And an invitation here to breathe, so we call this belly breathing. And so when we breathe into the belly, we want to feel the rise of the belly. And then when we exhale, feel the deflation of the balloon, kind of like letting everything go. And so we're normally chest breathers. Chest breathing is a mild form of hyperventilation that we don't really feel until we're triggered. Breathing into your stomach utilizes 100% of your lung capacity. So if you're doing yoga, if you're an athlete, or you just want to really have a body that's feeling strong and energized, we want to really, because oxygen is no different than the food that you eat. It is providing energy for the body. So as we become aware of breathing into the stomach and just relaxing with that for a moment, and I'm just going to invite in to breathe into the stomach, and then on the exhale as it deflates, to allow for the energy of the stomach to maybe soften, or maybe even bringing a softening to the body. Maybe you're noticing some tension. And just, now that we've been doing this for a moment, I invite you to, if you're using words or trying to think about breathing into your stomach, I'm going to invite you to see if we can drop that and move into just the movement of the breath. Feeling how we inhale fully into the stomach and going into sensation. And knowing that we're breathing right just by how it feels. And maybe even breathing in the sounds that you hear, all of it, not just the instruments. And maybe allowing for the sound and frequency to help soften and relax the energies within our body and within our system. So balloon breathing is also like, how do we relax our system? So if we consciously become aware of exhaling longer than we inhale, this will help naturally kind of relax and calm the body. So if you have children in the education system or just in life in general and their stress level is high, maybe like you could work on breathing with them now and even talk about like, well, how was your school year? and find and discover like what stresses them out. Maybe being social, maybe taking a test, maybe going to this particular class is a stressor. And so if we start working on breathing in a fun kind of way, like balloon breathing and extending the exhale, we can teach them as they go into a new school year that, hey, you can use this in class. And like I said in the beginning, we can just use 1 or 3 breaths that are consciously taken. And it can help with the stress of life. It can help with anxiety. It can help with if you're stuck and you can't remember something, and we consciously stop thinking about it. Almost like I'm trying to tell a friend something, I can't remember what it is, and as soon as they leave, I remember because I stopped thinking about it. So, for example, on a test, they could just stop looking at the question, take 3 breaths consciously, and then they might come back and be like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm doing here. When we breathe into an energy, so as you inhale into the stomach and feel it rising, I invite you to feel the energy of the stomach. The stomach holds a lot of trauma. It's one area. How does your stomach actually feel? Does it feel tight? Does it feel upset? Or maybe you notice something else that is of discomfort. Maybe the throat or the mouth or the jawline or the heart is another common area. And so as you breathe into the stomach, we can also even breathe energy and focus our attention on like the heart or something else that feels heavy. And we can, on the inhale, just feel that heaviness and acknowledge it. Like, okay, I know you're here. And then as we exhale, if we're not working on this energy and discovering like what inner child it may be or what's going on with this trigger or this anger or this frustration or anxiety, and we're just trying to relieve it, when you exhale, this is where we just bring in softening. So when I inhale, I'm like, okay, I feel you, and you can speak to it and be kind to it, acknowledge it, like I know you're here. I may not know who you are or what you are, but I'm going to start becoming aware. And sometimes when we allow for the memory of whatever that is within your system, and just acknowledging it, it can help release some of the stress or anxiety. And then as we exhale, to just think of softening. Think of the air in a balloon being dispersed out all around you, out to the universe, and we're letting that heaviness go. And so if you like, you can scan your body a little bit and try this balloon breathing, if you like, and breathing into parts of you that may feel good and acknowledging that, and maybe breathing into parts that you want to relax. Part of it is like talking to ourselves a little bit, you know, and just like trying to find words of comfort. A part of like the work, the way I view it, is like we become a parent to ourselves. like maybe that parent, like, you know, like my mom and dad did their best, right? And I acknowledge that. And but there was a lot of things missing, and it wasn't like intentional. But like, so when I look at myself as reparenting myself and my energies, and then I can be more present for other people as well. You know, I went through a process where I wrote out like what would be the perfect parent for me as I heal myself, and then that also became a part of like my higher self, or more of my truth. And so when we can like be a little bit more gentle with ourselves and start like really concentrating on the words that we're not only speaking out loud, but what's more powerful really is like the words that we're saying quietly that no one hears. Because that's creating an energy. So for example, my sister-in-law is very negative, and she was extremely negative for 2 days before they flew to Copenhagen. And I'm listening to it, I'm like, man, they're gonna have a rough exit out of Boston. And she just was talking like, you know, I'm always having problems, planes are always doing this is always, and the negativity was so strong and so constant that the morning of the flight, the flight got canceled. And they had to reconfigure everything, like for all their kids and for everything. And it was just a nightmare. But the words that she was using, it's all that she knows, but she created that reality. She created it. We all can create whatever we want. So when we tune into the breath, we tune into feeling the energies, speaking kindly and lovingly to the energy. And then as we look at life, what words are we using? What words are we using like with your children? What words are we using with self? What words are we using towards work or other people and self? I wish there was almost a word. I know Sandy loves to bring in like the power of the word, or I wish there was a word. I'm going to have to look this up now. Because it's like, what is something that might be even mean more power than using the word power? Because
Spelling.
Well, spelling. Yeah, spelling or casting spells. Because our words are casting spells. Yeah, thank you. But our words are also creating that energy or that frequency that we're giving off. Hence the flight being canceled. They got delayed by taking off by like 8 hours. And, you know, they had a beautiful trip and everything worked out. But they won't listen to me, so... But if we could have just changed and said, you know what, let's change what's been my normal. Let's change and be like, this is not happening to me anymore. And let's start restructuring the words. I heard a story recently of a woman who wanted to travel the world and photograph all the big things all over the world, and she wanted to go to like every country. And she had no money and no job. And so she started creating the reality that she would be able to travel for free. And she did. She traveled the whole world for free. Didn't pay for any air flights or anything, including hotels. And so what she did is she shared her photography with the airlines and with the hotels using catalogs to help sell, like, you know, fly here or come to this hotel, which is near this. And so because she had an energy exchange with the hotels and with the airports, she actually did the whole thing at no cost. And also understanding that there's an energy exchange is always important as well too. It's not just about taking. Like there's like a person who I provides my services for at no cost, and then I receive services from them at no cost. So it's just a beautiful energy exchange, or bartering if we want to go that way. But our words can help create that reality. And when we use the power of the breath to balance out our system, well, what happens there? Well, when we allow for the system to relax, then we can maybe give birth to ideas that come up within our mind, because we're not trying to force thought. I wish you guys could see this with the bowls. There's like a couple little bugs like flying around in the bowl and they don't want to leave. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to go around to each individual and use like a very specific frequency for your heart so that you can feel this maybe a little bit closer. And so I'm going to place this near the heart. And is there anyone here that would be uncomfortable with me placing something near their heart? Just raise your hand if you don't want to speak. And then so the invitation, as you hear it on YouTube or Facebook or here, is to, again, use the balloon breathing. Breathe in the frequency into the heart. So just focus right now on the heart. So as you inhale, the invitation is to breathe the energy of the air into the heart. And then when you hear this frequency, as I play it for everyone, to breathe the sound into the heart. And then when I draw it closer to your heart, you're going to feel it much differently. Sound and frequency are, it's so powerful, and like outside it's one thing, inside it can sometimes be a little bit more powerful. Like if you've heard me do it like at the shop, or if you have come to my office, like where it's a little bit smaller too, where the sound really reflects. And frequency is so, it's so beautiful. And there's a reason why when we study history and we look at native cultures that were true to nature, there's a reason why they had caves, and pretty much all of them had caves that were specific to different frequencies. And even when we think of health and healing, not just like dropping into meditation, but even help, it's another tool for different areas of health as well. And there are scientists and people who are researching this out and discovering the power of it. So there is a lot more documentation today for the people who might need that scientific aspect of truth. And then just inviting you just to stay aware of the breath. And the more we can, like the more I have been able to tune into my breath, it really has helped me. It's been like one of the key elements to shifting from like to having like a real good life. Like Sandy mentioned something a couple minutes ago to some of the people here, like of what my past was. Like even though it was like horrible, I had like a lot of beautiful things, a lot of really wild experiences, but I never really was able to enjoy a lot of them at the level that I wish I could have because of where I was at. And so now, you know, like I can enjoy life at a much deeper level and actually enjoy the company of people, enjoy a hike or a bike ride or getting out on the kayak like this morning and just enjoying it at a deeper level, you know, and maybe not even feeling so alone. You know, like I was a pro athlete and I worked in pro sports and I coached like at a pretty high level, so I'm surrounded by thousands of people all the time. But at that point in my journey, I felt the most alone when I was most surrounded by people. And most of them never knew the suffering that was going on, and nor should they have, or some did. But now it's a different story because now I want the connection, as to where before I didn't want. I was always running from the connection, and not really wanting. Yeah, it was just weird. I don't even know how to explain that. Like how alone I actually really felt, even though I was constantly surrounded. So we don't have to feel that way anymore. It's our choice. We all have a choice. And so since we have a few people here today, I'm just going to invite everyone to kind of like come back to awareness of this beautiful space, this beautiful house, this beautiful breeze, the beautiful water. And as you like come back, and I just want to take advantage of this, just having some new people around. If there's any questions, so if there's any questions that you might have of anything that I said, or even anything not related to what I said, I'm the only person on camera. We won't say your name or anything, but just to open up to like maybe for a moment, just for like a discussion. If there's something that you're feeling, or just have questions that, because if you have a question, it might also be relatable to someone who's seeing this that's not present here as well too. And it might, may not just serve you, but it may serve others as well too. So I'll just open that up if anyone does have anything.
What would you recommend for us going back to our homes and our lives as far as self-practice, like something that we can do, even if it's a couple times a week?
Right.
Just to, put this into practice.
Yeah. So what I mentioned in the beginning of trying to bring in the breath in small doses, because if we do like a big dose and try and do 20-minute meditations, that's like jumping from 0 to maybe 30 miles an hour really quick, and it's not really a way to integrate it more into our day. So my invitation would be to either set like a timer, like I said on the phone, for 60 or 90 minutes to go off, and then bring conscious awareness to belly breathing for 1 breath or 10 breaths, or for 10 to 30 seconds. Because even one breath can be so powerful. And the more that we bring smaller doses of awareness to consciously breathing, then we're going to start developing a new routine. So after you do that for a month, then we're going to start doing it more naturally. If you want to do one really powerful breath that will really relax you, and I'll invite you to try this right now if you want, is a double inhale with a really long, full exhale, like really letting everything out softly. So it looks something like this. So I'm inhaling through, you can inhale through the nose or mouth, it doesn't really matter. But you breathe in, and then you kind of like take that last gulp of air, and then really exhale through the mouth for this one. And if you guys want to try it, you can. And that's the fastest way to decompress the body. And then when we soften the exhale, we almost, like, I love coming down to the breath to where it's almost nothing, and it feels like I'm actually holding my breath. And it just puts me in this really beautiful state. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it really is, I really believe, like, I wish I knew that in the beginning. Like, to do this in small doses throughout the whole day. Whenever I feel uncomfortable in my body, like, because a lot of this is tuning into the body. Because, like, for 40 years, I didn't know who I was. I was so disconnected from myself that I couldn't even be in my body. So I was constantly disconnected. And so now I know myself and I can be in my body again. And so a part of this is really just learning how to connect and feel comfortable with the energies inside me instead of being so uncomfortable. I need to reach for my phone, reach for this drug, reach for this drink, reach to be abusive or whatever it is.
What about kids, Matt? Like, what's a good way to introduce this practically in our daily routine with the kiddos?
Yeah, so I think the balloon, that's why I bring in the balloon breathing.
Yeah.
Because I think so anytime we can create like a story for the kids. So like a balloon, every child can relate to a balloon. And you could even have like a little bit of fun with it too and actually have like a real balloon. And be like, imagine filling up your stomach and let the kid blow it up and that let's release the tension and then let the balloon go so it flies around, right? And then you can like take that, like having a little bit of fun with them with the balloon, and then like now let's try this in your stomach.
Visuals help.
Yeah. And then I think also too, it's like I think it's about talking to the kids more and being real. Like right now, like summertime's a great time.
Yeah.
Like reflect on the school year for them, maybe, and like get to know like, hey, you know, what was going on with you this year? How did you feel? Like, was there things that bothered you? And as they reflect, then we can use the breathing and be like, well, when we enter this new school year, let's see if work on the breathing. And then as the school year gets closer, say like, hey, you remember when you were telling me this? Well, why don't you use this to help maybe de-stress a test, or maybe if you have to go to the or go speak to this teacher and you get anxiety because it's an adult, like maybe take a few breaths while you're walking over to talk to the teacher. Because meditation and breathing can be in motion, right? So it doesn't have to be sitting. So we can teach the children like a simple balloon technique and then teach them like it's okay to be aware of your breath and to calm the body while you're walking down the hallway to this office.
Fair point, because kids, you know, like rarely do they stop moving. And
right. Yeah, exactly.
Everybody has
right.
ADHD these days, and it's
right.
just it's like a.
And this will help quiet that system down for them.
Yeah.
So I think just to be really basic with them, like with that in the beginning, and just learning like the small doses of what I just said, and helping, and also just helping you to understand from a parent perspective of like what's actually really going on with them, and do reflective stuff. Like the summertime could be great for that. Maybe a little bit more car rides, maybe a little bit, you know, deeper conversations with them.
I like what you said too about open eyes meditation, because like when I was a kid, like my favorite thing was to just like stare at the clouds.
Absolutely.
You know, so maybe like don't say like we're stopping to breathe now, but like let's look at the clouds.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
let's take a breath, but like, you know, kind of interweaving that with like an open eyes meditation.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, just like bringing nature in.
And one of my favorite meditations is actually laying underneath a tree and looking up at, especially in the wintertime, when the leaves are down, and really looking at like the nature of a tree and that like spider web that's coming off of it, like so beautiful.
I mean, that was the iPad of the past, Matt. I mean, what else do we have to do but look at the clouds?
But I was like looking at the clouds yesterday, doing that like an open-eyed meditation, and these two clouds all of a sudden formed of like two people hugging each other.
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
You know, which was like really beautiful. So like the open eyes, closed eyes, like all of it. Even when I was an athlete, like when I was a runner, and like even like running for me was a meditation, even though I didn't know it at the time. But it was one of the few times in my life where I actually felt kind of like comfortable in my own skin. And I think it was because I was releasing so much energy. That's probably why I was
You were
such
also
a good...
activating your endocannabinoid system, because your endogenous cannabinoids, the runner's high.
Yeah.
Right, endorphins, cannabinoids.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I was like, it was that part of me that was releasing so much energy that was the one place that I felt comfortable.
I never got running, but that's what a lot of my friends say. They just feel so free. Yeah.
Well, I felt like I could dominate. Like I felt like I was in control. Like I would play games. Like I was pretty fast, so like I would like start off in like last place and just play games and like just blow everyone out at the end, and like you know I would just do like all these weird things. Until I got to the international level, then I had to be a little bit more serious. But
I think getting kids to maybe like start interacting with some of these instruments too would be really fun.
I think so too, yeah.
And you can offer that on Tuesdays when we start back up at the shop. If people did want to bring kids in while kids are off.
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the things that we've lightly talked about too is like you can bring kids in on Tuesday if they're not in school, because I do have an infant coming right now who loves it, and even now he recognizes me, and like it's kind of cool because I saw him like outside of the environment. But also I think the Wednesday night sound healing that I was doing, I like what we talked about a while ago, where we start it maybe earlier, like at 6:30 at night.
Yeah.
And then have it more of a family event, so people can bring like their family, and instead of it just being geared towards adults. So I think that might be something as we approach the end of summer, we put stuff together for next year.
Yeah.
That might be something that we offer as well.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt.
Is there any? Well, I just want to check. Is there any
Yeah.
other questions?
I kind of, is it like common, since this is kind of my first time that like I was like panicking, my anxiety was actually really high?
Mm-hmm.
Is that not like common?
Yeah. So yeah, it
Or,
is
like, why,
common
I guess?
because it's because you're just not used to feeling in, and so maybe you have some anxiety already that's active
well, I think
within
it was
you.
when you told me to go to a safe place, I couldn't.
Okay. And so you may not have that place that feels safe for you. And to acknowledge that is okay. And so a part of this might be to help you to discover like what is safe for you.
Yeah. Like
And
I
so-
felt better after like when you did the closer one.
Yeah,
Like that's when I started to feel
right.
like better.
So when someone is not feeling safe, like let's just say you were going to come to me like for a one-on-one or to another session like this, I might, with the statement that you just said, I might ask you to bring something from home that makes you feel safe. Because sometimes we may not like feel safe within our own system, like what I was talking about, like with myself. Like I definitely did not feel safe or comfortable in my body. And so sometimes an external object can have that sense of safety. So for me, I actually had like this doll, this little thing. It was like a Christmas ornament that I kept, and it was like a thing that just made me feel safe. And so sometimes something safe might actually be external first to help us discover how to actually feel safe in the body. So feeling safe in the body is an exploration. It's a journey, and it's a beautiful journey. And then we just might use some other resources that actually help with that. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that help a little bit?
A little, yeah.
The
So-
breath can be so activating.
Yeah. Well,
It
the
can, like,
breath can
activate
be.
It took me a
emotions.
little while to like kind of
Yeah.
like, because I was like kind of panicking, so I was
Okay.
like, trying
So the breath, what I would suggest for you is to make sure that the exhale is longer than the inhale, because that's going to be more calming. It won't be an activating breath. The other invitation for you is to maybe make a new friend. And so the new friend will actually be the breath. And so how do we develop a relationship with the breath? So if you pretend like there's like a little car or a person right here at the end of your nose, and then breathing that in and feeling the whole journey of how the air travels through the nose to the esophagus to the stomach, and just becoming more aware of like how it actually feels, and just allow for that to be a very gentle process and very slow, and just to do it in like small doses, like I said. So if we maybe explore maybe just one breath, and then we can slowly develop like a little bit more comfort, because that's bringing us more into the body.
Was
Is
there a
it-
particular part of your body that felt like tight?
my chest.
Your chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have asthma too though, so like when I kind of panic, it makes it worse.
Okay. Yeah.
I
So
don't know if
the
that had something to do with the breathing, because I have a hard time kept like figuring to breathe anyways.
yeah, the heart holds like almost everything, like the stomach and everything else might. The memory, and the heart also has a memory no different than the brain, and we actually know that factually, like scientifically. So the heart is going to be a place that's super heavy for us, and holds a lot of our anxiety and stress and anger and like in memory. And so that's a very common area. So sometimes so that frequency was specific to the heart. So another thing that you could also explore It's like, what are other things I can do? Well, I can go on Spotify or YouTube and just look up like a heart frequency sound. And then so whenever you want to maybe breathe, like for like 1 or 2 breaths, maybe even play that heart frequency. So you're using another external factor, and then maybe you're holding something that just makes you feel good. And so when we add a couple things in a healthy way from the external world, it might help with that. So like even using a frequency, maybe if you use Spotify or have some way of saving music so that you can go to it really quick, or even downloading an app too. Like love binary beats. I'll just do a binary